And we're back.
Hey everybody, let's get into the interview and let's start. Oh, that's both of us. You're like, wait, that's not the right one. Hold on, interview full. No, interview code, interview scene. This one. There we go.
Oh my God, I didn't. So this is good, but normally I'm on this desk, and
Yeah, your
there's
desk
some changes
changed.
going.
That's what I was like. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I'm actually on my streaming desk, um, but I think I'm going to have to move everything over there, which I'm not prepared for that. Maybe this weekend.
Yeah, that's fine. Hey, Shawn.
Hey,
uh,
how are you?
I am good. Happy the end of 2024. Uh,
Yeah, that's right. You're all done, right?
I am pretty much wrapping up today, actually. Yeah. A lot of stuff, end of year compliance stuff, audits, end of year work,
Mm-hmm.
but all is good.
Yep, yep.
Um, we want to talk about certificates and learning and all of that. Is that accurate? Is that
Yeah, so it's certificates, and well, initially it was the job market, and then kind of leveraging into the certificates.
oh, okay, yeah. The job market.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you still that's still what you want to cover?
yes, that sounds
Okay.
awesome. I don't want to make sure, I want to make sure there's not an echo, so I'm going to put my headphones on.
Hello.
Hold on, that's a me thing.
Okay.
Boom. Bluetooth. Settings. This is one. I want to connect. Why is this not connected? I don't know. It's probably connected to my phone, is the problem. Can almost guarantee that. Do you have the same Bluetooth connected to multiple devices?
Bluetooth what?
Like if you have a headset, do you have that same
Yeah,
headset
yeah,
connected to
yeah.
both?
So my headset can connect to multiple devices.
That's just,
My mouse too.
oh God, I just screwed up.
Okay.
I don't know how to fix this. Hold on.
Yep.
I was testing out Bluetooth and then I realized my keyboard is connected by Bluetooth. So now I have no
Oh, no
connection.
keyboard.
So now let's see if I can turn that back on. And then let's see if this gets connected. There we go. And let's try this again. There we go. Oh, and now it's on the wrong mic. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
And let's see what mic this is using now. Oh, no, it's still good. Okay, I think we're good. Technical difficulties is going live.
The challenge is
Cancel. All right. So yeah, let's start talking about the job market because that's real.
yeah. So where do you want to start?
Well, I mean, since it's the larger audience and this is what people care about, let's start with like entry level positions and like I hate to use the word junior because I don't think that's accurate because once you are in a position, you're a developer, period. Right? I've never liked the term junior. I like the term software engineer and then senior software engineer. But let's talk about the entry level positions and start there.
Yeah. Okay. And I agree. Like this very few people understand the difference between a junior engineer and a senior engineer to begin with, right? Like even managers don't really understand the difference, right?
Right.
It's just a way to kind of segment people. You can have a junior who has all the qualifications or the really important qualifications of a senior, and the senior acting like a junior. And by the way, I don't think technical ability is the only like governance of senior, right?
That is
Right?
correct.
Like
I agree with that too.
I always say the thing that I say to myself is the the difference between a senior and everybody else. A senior has a positive effect on everybody else.
Oh, that's fair. That's actually a good way to put it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think. Wait, everything just went away. Oh, there.
yeah. You blacked out for a sec.
That's weird. Anyway, interesting technology challenges. Um, most of the seniors that I have worked with or even promoted into, they have generally raised the bar for everyone around them.
Yeah.
And it's sure their technical expertise is there. They can actually do the job, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they can also teach the job. And I think that's a part that a lot of quote senior engineers hate doing. And
Yep.
I think that's funny because they want the promotion and the title and all of that, but they don't want the responsibility of all of that.
Well,
And
I
it's
think that that's part of the challenge with corporate engineering, right? Normally, especially in consulting, right? We see this problem a lot in consulting, right? Like I surely saw it in my time, and what how they addressed it is they basically created a similar track to leadership that still allowed you to be an engineer. It was a little tricky, but the assumption that your top engineer wants to be leadership is a pretty poor assumption, right?
yes, that is
Yeah.
true. Because and I will say most, I will say a majority of IC's individual contributors uh,
Mhm.
don't want to go into management, but
Mhm.
their perception is the only way they can get more money or move up in the game is to go into management. And there needs to be a path
Mhm.
in the organization for them to still be a contributing um, component to the team, but they don't have to move into a management and move away from the code. They can move up in the code and move into what I call architect roles, right? So they can start expanding. And at Microsoft, they did have two paths. They had the management track and they had the architect track or the IC track. And I thought that was brilliant. And I've always liked that they did there.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's a good way to handle it. Yeah, I've seen a similar time at Slalom that it was like that. They were working on building it. I've seen a lot of really great engineers ruined by being forced into management.
And forced into management without the proper training of management. So
Well,
they're
this
given a
is
team and the team hates them from day one.
here's the thing. There's often very few training, right? Like I have so much to say about this, right? Like one, so few companies get this part right. Like the how to graduate a person, how to empower someone who's going from an IC role to a leadership role, maybe management, maybe upper management. There's just not enough frameworks or framework training to help you understand what a good manager is, right? And because of that, what ends up happening, you end up generating a bunch of terrible managers who end up making the lives of their engineers horrible. And you have a lot of what do you call it, shrinkage, right? You have a lot of people jumping ship because you know what I think is that people are people, but if you're not equipped with the right set of skills, you're not going to be an effective manager. And this is not technical skills. This is by and large like very structured frameworks, like how to manage people, how to talk to people, how to get the most out of people, how what's the best way to check in, and then when you have challenges, because you're going to have challenges, how to manage those challenges, right? Like a lot of people just kind of going by the seat of their pants, and it's really just ruining the technical apparatus.
Oh, what do you think some of the early challenges are for new managers?
The first challenge is always going to be imposter syndrome, right? Like you, well, there's two. I would A and B to that, right? One, the internal is imposter syndrome. The external is I'm not being effective unless I'm coding.
And that was me. Yeah,
Yeah,
I felt I was like, if I'm not coding, I'm not doing my job.
yeah. You every framework of whether or not you've contributed has something to do with you coding. But the moment you become management, your skills, again, going back to the first point, your real job is to get the best out of everyone else. And the sooner you embrace that, the better you will be at your role.
Yeah, I think the first skill any new manager should learn is delegation
Yes.
and the letting go.
Yep.
Your
Absolutely. Letting go,
yeah,
learning
your
how
way
to
is not
trust.
always the right way.
Well, yeah, and this is a big challenge. The more technical you are, the more you're going to be like, well, I can do this better, faster. But that's not really the point, right? You're supposed to be creating an environment where other people have been indoctrinated into your way of thinking so that this goes back again to the initial point. Having one great senior should have a network effect on everyone else on that team, but it can't be that way if that person gets promoted to leadership and hasn't embraced the idea that, hey, I'm not here to code anymore. I'm here to help John code, Shawn code. I'm here to help move boulders out the way so that they can be successful and the whole team can be better.
No, I think that's really accurate, and I think a lot of managers want to they will actually start that path and then lose the patience that is needed in that role.
I think that's a great word. The patience and the discipline to let go and to trust your team. You're responsible, good or bad or indifferent. Like you have to learn to trust them to get things done. And you have to you really have to be a couple of different things to your guys or girls or your team um, to help them be successful. But a lot of it's not technical. Like I have a saying: I could teach anything technical. Just take those off the table. We can deal with technical ability, but the things that are like just the things that drive really successful managers and really successful employees are internal things that have nothing to do with technology. And I think people will like, oh, he's a great engineer. Great. Is he a self starter? Like, is he a problem solver? Is he going to stand in the corner and chew on something for 3 days versus ask for help? I mean, I would rather have someone who asks for help early and often to learn and grow from a challenge versus someone who's just stubborn, standing in the corner trying to like spending a week
Right.
wasting the right time, right? And these are challenges that kind of from the bottom up, right?
Hmm.
From the point of view when you're new, you're definitely afraid to ask questions, right? You just lucky to be there. The imposter syndrome
I
can be
don't want to
heavy.
screw it up. Yeah.
Exactly. And I remember I almost ruined my career early on with this one issue, and I developed a framework. I want to say somebody gave it to me, but I can't remember who gave it to me, but I certainly used the hell out of it. Basically, when you're new, you should ask for as many questions and as much help as early as possible so that you can set expectations. Expectations, people think that setting expectations goes down. Your manager sets expectations with you, right? And then you kind of march to his orders. But I believe that you can set your manager's expectation. You can manage him a little bit, by saying, "Hey, I see what you're asking me to do. I'm not exactly sure how to do this, but give me a day. Let me go through it, and I'll get back to you, and then we can confirm." Right? There's a subtle, masterful thing that a lot of young engineers are just too intimidated to do, but it's a really important skill because your manager, if you're new, he doesn't know you. He doesn't probably he might not trust you, but one way to get to that point is if you guys kind of set each other's expectation and kind of define a new ways of working between the two of you.
Yeah, and I mean that's how you actually build trust with your manager too. Like especially when you're, let's say you're joining a new team and you get that new role. The first thing I like to do is, one, what do you expect of me in my first 90 days? That question I always ask. What is success to you? And when I understand what success to them is, I was like, oh wow, that's really cool. That's crazy, but I understand why you like sometimes their
Yeah. Yep.
expectation is like unrealistic. And I'm like,
Yep.
oh, there's not a possible world where that can happen for me. Or they'll I was like, oh, I can definitely do that, and then I will intentionally exceed that expectation. So then they're like, oh, he did that and more, and now he can do this, and it will build my responsibility and trust for that manager. And I do that generally in my first 90 days.
No, I think having an idea of that or a framework you can reference when you're dealing with your manager makes your life a lot easier.
No, for sure. So let's let's pull it back a little bit. Let's talk about the
hmm
job market and how do they get that first job?
Great question. I mean, in this market or in general?
No, no, right now, because that's what everyone wants to know about. Everyone's like, well, I just graduated from this university, this boot camp, or I'm a self-taught and I've built websites for my friends. So now how do I get a real job? A real job. Which I'm not
Okay.
saying that those websites you created for your friends isn't a real job. Because if you're writing
Yeah.
code, it's a real job.
Yeah.
Well, if you get paid for it.
Yes. That's the definitive part. Um, it's a hobby till they pay you to do it.
Yep. Yep. Everything's a
So
hobby until you get paid.
exactly. Um, so my first thoughts are in this market, you really have to find ways to differentiate yourself. I think everything is about standing out, leveraging your network, making yourself discoverable for to people who need you, right? You're getting hundreds of resumes the first day, the first hour of
Hour.
a role. Yeah. So one, finding ways to stand out. Like one, everybody's learning React. Do something different. Like take inventory of the skills that are being used to solve problems and find unique challenges that help you stand out.
Like what?
Um, so
I like concrete. Let's see what you say. I have my own opinions. I'll go after you.
okay, great. So I mean, there's the extreme. There's people still pay. I know someone who's doing COBOL right now,
Yeah, me too. And they're getting
and
paid bank.
they, exactly. That's an extreme, but I mean, there's many other things. Like people ask me all the time, like, what should I be learning? And my answer hasn't changed in the last 2 years. Python, 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 Python. Right? We don't need more full stack developers. We need more Python people who understand the tenets of what AI is today.
Right, and data pipelines. Like every I
Yes.
mean the data situation is that's the future. Everyone's talking AI, AI, AI. Well, AI is useless without data.
hmm Yeah.
So
No, definitely the
like
case.
it's the whole if there's a gold rush, start selling shovels, right?
Absolutely.
That's why Python is the winner. Yeah, and on top of that, I completely agree about the full stack. I think full stack is like it is a flooded market. And can you stand out as a full stack person? Sure, I'm sure there's a way. You create some amazing site that goes viral and you got lucky. But if you do Python, that's going to be, you're going to learn data, you're going to learn data processing, you're going to learn data pipelines, you're going to learn the DevOps side of things and all of that. And I think by doing that, I think the one skill, even back when we were at GA teaching, I would, we had our core JavaScript course, and I was like,
Hmm.
this Saturday, I'm going to be here all day and I'm going to talk about deployments and CI/CD pipelines. And I have had students come back to me years later the saying that CI/CD weekend you spent was so beneficial and made me stand out across anybody who graduated out of a boot camp.
Yeah, no, definitely, definitely. So it's the little things that help you stand out.
Yeah.
Um, Going back to your question, on the same track, find platforms that are still in demand, right? So initially, when I first kind of said this, I was referring to AWS, all the cloud certs and stuff. I still think that those are valuable, more valuable because AWS has a platform that people recognize, right? Same thing for like Google and Kubernetes and things like that. Like those things are still, those platforms are still hiring. But what I'm really looking at is like Salesforce, right? Salesforce is like a one off platform. It's not, it can be technical, but it's not always as technical, right? Doing Salesforce, right? Like, I think that there's probably a lot of opportunities on the Salesforce platform.
That's actually,
And
SAP would be another one that will always be
yeah,
around.
my only hesitation for SAP because it's always, I really missed my shot at SAP. There was one of the things I regretted early in my career, where when that was like becoming a thing, but I could just never get access to the training material. It was very like expensive, and if it wasn't your job, then
ABAP,
you
yep.
how do you get it, right? And I just kind of gave up. But I know plenty of SAP people have gotten washed away recently, like really just kind of beat like just kind of completely wiped out. I agree with the idea that a platform like SAP should be a good place to start, but I also have to acknowledge that I know more than a few people who have lost their job in that space.
Wow, okay, that's good to know. Yeah,
Yeah.
I did SAP for about a year, and I was a
Mm-hmm.
consultant. And ABAP, if you ever
ABAP,
heard of it,
ABAP, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
ABAP is the programming language for
Mm-hmm.
SAP, and it is very, very proprietary.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was a fascinating experience. I traveled a lot, and that was the other thing. I was like, I don't want to travel anymore.
Yeah. But also, where are you shopping? Like I've been saying this so much lately. Where are you shopping? Like, are we all looking to kind of locked up? Did you get all that?
I did it. It just everything. Yeah, reconnection successful. All of my internet just died. It's one of those nights. So where
Okay.
you shopping is where I got, and I heard hospitals and schools, and then it kind of faded.
Uh, yeah, hospital schools, nonprofits. So this, I want to put nonprofits at the top of that list, right? You know, if you're just getting started, you know, you got to find a way to get skills, have demonstratable skills, have experience. I really think learn Salesforce, do it for hospitals, do it for schools, do it for nonprofits, get on board. What's really weird is that, Salesforce, just like everybody else, laid off a bunch of people. But at least here in Atlanta, they not long after they hired like a bunch of people, and they're always hiring. You
That's
know,
yeah. I mean, obviously, Salesforce in New York is crazy. Like
yeah, yeah,
it's
you
like
know,
it
um,
is the job to get here.
yeah. And I mean, I myself, like I was a Salesforce certified administrative developer for a long time, and then I was considering becoming a certified instructor. Um, and now I'm like looking at that again, like, okay, well maybe I should kind of mosey on over there and see what that's about.
Have There was a company when I was early searching for new jobs. Like I think Gosh, that had to have been in early 2000, called
Hmm.
PeopleSoft.
Yeah, PeopleSoft is,
Is
PeopleSoft is a big deal. Like
is that still
PeopleSoft,
around?
yeah, absolutely. PeopleSoft's still
Okay,
around. And then Oracle, like Oracle's,
right.
because they're all in those same enterprise suite level things, right? Like, it's not sexy, it's kind of boring, kind of antiquated, but we're talking about gaining some experience and getting some work.
And actually getting in the job market of you'll learn those additional skills we were talking about in regards to communication and things like that,
Absolutely,
and
absolutely.
learning how to tolerate some things and learning how to fix some things in regards to your current work environment wherever it may be.
Also, recently, Palantir has been brought into my pathways,
Palantir, I do know them. Yes.
right? So, and it's very similar to, like, so these all these platforms are very similar. Salesforce, Palantir, proprietary data platforms. There's some application layer on top of it. Palantir's big things about data. I know. I get the feeling that Palantir public persona is not that great, but you know they're big on data, and they're a big company.
Yeah, I haven't played much with Palantir, um,
Hmm.
but I have heard about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I had to do it all over again, I'd find a niche. I'd bide my time till the market improved. I'd partner with people to learn. I would exchange my time for learning new tech that is valuable. Um, Feel free to, if the next question is how do you know what's valuable, we can get into that. But I would, I mean, I had to do this. I had to do this. I have went like full circle. Like, people should be paid for their time, but you also have to realize this is a trade, an exchange for skill and money. And when you don't have experience, you may have to exchange your skill for experience.
Right. No, absolutely.
Now,
And
this market is so different than the market that I came into. I had to do a lot of unpaid work, and I'm saying that that should be limited, right? Like, that should be very clear. Like, what's the exchange for experience for learning? And I see people do it well. Like, I have to say, I think I did it well for years, but I've also seen people get taken advantage of.
oh, I bet. Hold on, I want to see if this screen
Mhm.
switches correctly. It did not. Let's come back to this one. Yeah, that's us. So
Mhm.
I want to see if I can do this successfully. Nope. What is happening? Um, I have where's the interview code? This one. Yeah, this.
Yeah.
I don't know why you go black there. It doesn't make
Oh, I
sense.
didn't see that. Okay.
Yeah, so I think I need to switch whatever screen that's doing. So let's do display capture, turn that, switch to that, and then do that. Does that look right? Yeah, that looks
Yeah.
right. There we go. So on this one, this is Palantir. And
Mhm.
just for those who are watching on YouTube, like so many jobs for infrastructure, product development, engineering, but more importantly, internships. And internships in all of these different locations are like a huge way to get your foot in the door in regards to that. And I think that is very, very important.
Yeah, also, since we're talking about internships, like companies like Accenture have really well structured internship programs. Um, they have a program where if you don't have a college degree, if you're just out of high school, they will take you and train you. I've seen that, and it's throughout the whole company. So there's a few companies like Accenture that have very structured internships or apprenticeships.
That's cool. Yeah, I like I'm trying to think. I never did an internship.
Yeah.
I missed out on those, but I was lucky enough to get a coding job while I was still in college. So, and then the CEO of that company, it was a startup, and he kept on
Hmm.
saying, "Well, you go to college to get a good job. Well, you got a good job, so why don't you drop out of college?" I was like,
Oh,
"No."
listen, don't get me started on that.
And that
I
was
mean,
I
you
had
know,
one semester yet left. I was like, I'm gonna finish.
listen, so one of my guys who's probably one of the smartest people I've ever met. I had a similar situation. Like I was mentoring, and I had a guy who was working for me, and he actually came with me to slalom, and he ended up not finishing, but he's doing really well. Like I think we had a conversation where he talked about going to school for something non-technical, right? Like he's at that point in his career, right? And I mean, in that regard, I think maybe that might have ended up being a good thing. But you know, being a good steward of people, you want people to finish, right? And there's a bunch of people like, oh, I'm benefiting from your labor. You don't need this education.
Right. Now I've heard that a
Well,
lot.
well, since we're here, let me can you bear with me while I go off on a tangent?
Of course.
Listen, I've seen this all over the internet. Like, I actually one of my largest posts or most like feedback posts ever is responding to some guy saying, don't let your kids go for liberal arts degrees, and don't let them go and pursue the things that they want to do. Make them focus on things that pay. And you know and I don't want to make this a race thing, but I want to talk about it from different perspectives. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
One, I think that that's a very privileged point of view, right? Like, growing up as a kid from the Bronx, New York City, everything was about getting a city job. Like the whole framework of reference is like you need to go to school well enough, and then so you can test and get a city job working for the MTA or the housing authority, or or the subway. That was what was pushed, right? And the idea of getting an education that would benefit you far beyond the frameworks of what you could possibly understand as a kid or a young adult just really wasn't talked about. Getting a advanced degree in math or science or things that go, even liberal arts, like having the skills to read and access information and then disperse it at the collegiate level was never like shine. There's no light on it, right?
Right.
Keep in mind the whole the nerds inherit the earth. That was that hadn't happened yet. So um I always was a little frustrated. And then now, as an old curmudgeon, when I see the remnants of these kind of like when I see people like I think it was Peter Thiel that the first time I ever saw this, he was like, "Listen, drop out of drop out of Stanford, drop out of Harvard. I'll give you X amount of dollars, and you'll come work on ideas for me." And that may have worked for a lot of people, but you know how things work on the internet. Somebody kind of heard something like that, and they pull a string, and the next thing they're telling you that Steve Jobs didn't finish college. You don't have to. Steve Jobs went to Harvard.
Yeah.
You, my friend, did not.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Bill Gates, right? He didn't
Yeah,
graduate.
right. Okay, that's right.
That was the big
He was,
example, but
yeah.
he still had that Harvard network, which is
And he still had a framework. He was always going to be okay,
yeah,
right?
one way or another. Yeah.
What
But didn't
people,
Zuckerberg even drop out too? I think he dropped out of Harvard too, or Yale. I think it was Harvard.
it was Harvey, but I don't know if he dropped. I never realized he dropped out.
I might be
Um,
wrong there. Don't hold me to that. Internet,
yeah.
don't yell at me.
So what? Here's what I've come to, especially from being from the inner city, being a youth, seeing some crazy stuff. My education was the key to unlocking the whole entire world. It went from a really small world to literally the universe. And I would tell anybody, even my meager degree was the key that opened that door. And if you don't ever have that opportunity, you will never understand that.
Right.
Right? If you only look at education in the framework of getting a job, you are cheating your children and yourself out of what makes education really powerful. Education is the thing they can't take away from you.
Well, that's true. Yep. I
You
think
you come from
the other
your
thing
parents
about
teachers.
education that I've learned by now living in New York,
Mm-hmm.
because everyone around here they're like, "Oh, I went to Yale or Harvard or Stanford or UCLA," like all of those kinds of colleges. And I go, "I went to the University of New Orleans." And they're like, "Wait, did you go to Tulane?" "No, I went to the University of New Orleans." Because Tulane's a private institution and I can't afford it. Um,
First of all, if you told me that, you would immediately have my respect because who finishes college when you're in New Orleans? Like it's the party capital. It's like
exactly.
going to Miami.
But what's interesting about it is it's not about the education they got there. It's about the network they created there. And
Yes,
the
I think that
network
needs to
of
make more.
NYU, Columbia, Harvard, Yale, if you go anywhere, you're like, oh, you're a Yale guy, blah blah blah, and then that alone opens doors, which is crazy to me, because I have met some, uh, I think it was a Harvard. I've met some Harvard grads that are not as good as some LSU grads that I know or some UNO
Absolutely,
grads
all
I
the time.
know. And
But they have the network.
but they have an amazing network. And that I think is something you were actually hinting at in regards to the opportunities of education. And
Yeah,
it's the level playing field or the lack of. If you don't go to one of those schools, then there are some, like let's say you graduate law school. If you don't look at Suits, there's that whole show. We only hire from Harvard.
like yep. Listen, let
Period.
me let me say this, right? Even if you went to a poor school, every college. Are we frozen again?
No,
No, we're back. Okay. Every college, like the first thing you learn is how to learn. Like that first year in most programs, you're basically learning how to learn at the collegiate level, right? And that is those type of things are the things that stick with you. So when you're trying to learn new things as you go throughout life, you'll be pulling back on those skills that you learned that first year of college. At least that's how it was for me. You know, and I think I have observed the difference between people who engineers who went to college and who have not gone to college, right? More traditional engineers who've gone to college, they have a framework of reference that is easy to help them long term throughout their career. I'm not saying that engineers who don't go to college don't develop one, but it's more piecemeal, right? Like, oh, this works for me, this didn't work for me. But there's a very identifiable difference between engineers that went to college versus self-trained. And that's not a judgment; it's just an observation.
right. No, I mean, one of my favorite managers never went to college, and
Mhm.
like just a sponge in regards to technology, because he would literally learn any new language that would come out or any new framework. He would be on it that weekend, and he would absorb it
Mhm.
and he would use it and he would create projects with it. And that was like, he was like an overachiever in regards to learning languages. Um, and it was amazing of how well he was at programming. He was like, "Oh yeah, you can't do that in JavaScript 1.2 on the IE engine, but on Firefox this actually works." And if you actually change the code, like he knew all of that just because he did it. And
Yeah.
experiential learning, I think, is the most practical in regards to software development, especially. If you don't have
Mhm.
project based learning, then you're not going to retain what you're building. And the other thing is, by doing project based learning, you're creating your own portfolio and repo. So that's another pro
I
in
agree.
doing that.
I had the benefit of going to a school where everything was project based, right? In traditional university, it's all theory, and then your TA comes out and kind of babysits you while you fumble around trying to figure out what the professor should have taught you. Um, so I definitely agree with you. Project based learning is the secret sauce.
I think also, like, when a new just because a new framework or language or whatever comes out, it doesn't mean you have to jump on it. You might want to know about it, but
Hmm.
you don't have to go all in on any single framework because you will burn out. I
Absolutely. I mean,
feel you.
I think we talked a little bit about this. The plight of the modern day JavaScript developer is complete bullshit. The expectations that you could manage all of these different. You're expected to be DevOps. You're expected to know very nuanced things from these frameworks. These frameworks make one change and they add so much more work to things. It's kind of bullshit,
Right.
honestly. Like
No, it
we
is.
yeah, we talked about Angular and we talked about React. You know, I loved Angular in the beginning, and then immediately it was overwrought, and that's why everybody jumped ship to React. And now I think Angular is having a bit of a renaissance moment, which I like because I still kind of hold a kind of an affinity for it. Um, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, uh there like I remember I mean we talked about it actually I think the previous week about all
Mhm.
the different frameworks and all of
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Um so understand about the new jobs and building the you had mentioned something about using your network. Well, let's say you're
yeah.
a new graduate. You don't really have a network. So then what would you recommend?
Join someone else's network. Use
Yeah, that's
find a
true.
bridge. Find a bridge to someone else's network. I end up saying this type of thing a lot in a lot of different contexts, right? You know, go to the meetups, get in the groups, go on the Discord, introduce yourself, try to add value to conversations. Like what you're trying to do is make yourself discoverable and also yes, you're trying to make yourself discoverable, full stop, but also work in public, be naked, like be on LinkedIn. Hey, I learned reduce map blah 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 today, right? What happens is you are programming people to, you know, how many people don't know you're an engineer, don't know you went to school for it, don't know, like you could tell them 10 times, and but what happens is subconsciously when they see you creating content, constantly talking about it, somebody's gonna be like, hey, I really need an engineer to solve this problem. He goes, oh wait, Shawn is always going on about something on LinkedIn. He might be able to help you, right? You gotta be seen doing the thing that you want to be doing. You know,
Right.
a
Whether you're
variation
getting
on
paid for it or not at that point, because like, and we're gonna. This is actually a nice segue into the certificate stuff. So in the past
Mhm,
month, I finally finished my cybersecurity certificate, and
mhm,
I posted about that, and I posted all the courses that I went through to get
yep,
that, and that was a free course, and I mean, it was not trivial. That one was actually a lot more work than I realized. Um,
mhm,
but I also have done more about ML and AI certificates and classes recently and posted
mhm,
about that. And then what I've realized, there are people that are following me now and referring to me as an AI expert. And I was
mhm.
like, I would call myself an AI expert. Am I
But
very
this
familiar?
goes back to what I just said, right? Like
Yeah.
they see you doing it now subconsciously they're programming themselves to recognize you as that.
Well, it's crazy because I mean, in certain circles, would I be the expert? Of course. But
Yeah.
the bar for me to be that level, I'm like, oh no, I know those PhD paper professors that are
Yeah,
like
yeah,
AI experts. And like, no, we just built this new chip to actually I was like, yeah, I'm not building chips.
yeah. This is the Dunning Kruger thing, right? The
Yeah.
the thing you need to know that you're not the guy would make you the
Makes you
guy.
the makes you the guy. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. But no, I've in the past I guess 2 weeks even. Like I've had people reach out to me for like cybersecurity jobs, and there was one about, hey, I saw that you're in the AI space, and I'm really interested. I was like, whoa, I'm good.
Slow down.
Whoa,
What do
hey,
you mean?
why are you talking? Are you trying to get me to hire people, or are you trying to hire me? Because I don't understand either one of those right now. but it's um, yeah, it's pretty
No,
funny.
but this is really important though. I think, we were talking about the certifications and some people poo poo on the value of certifications. And I think right now what's happening is people are just out of work. They're looking for any gold star that they can add to their, to their desk or their resume, and they're grabbing up these certifications. And they're not all equal, as you said. Like the first one you did was pretty intense, and the second one, was different.
Right.
And we're kind of withholding some of the true feedback on some of the quality of some of these certifications or the rigor. But I do believe, like going back to the initial question, right? Ways to stand out. Certifications should definitely be on your list. You should be finding every, hopefully not too much drama filled way to stand out. You know, a lot of the vendors, Microsoft, Google, are basically giving away free certifications right now.
Absolutely. Yeah, Microsoft is too, which I think is amazing. And like
Hmm.
Google's doing it, Microsoft is doing it, IBM is doing it. And
Hmm.
going down those paths, I view the I mean, I understand. I got a degree in computer science and that was a long time ago, but I think those certificates, the way I view them now is like let's say you're applying to a school and you have the exact same criteria as somebody else, but it's the extracurricular activities that stand out. These
Absolutely.
certificates are those extracurricular activities that make you stand out because
Yep.
everyone's got the same. Everyone's great at React. Everyone's great at Next.js. Everyone's great at CSS. So the web world is fine. But I also have a certificate in cybersecurity and AI and machine learning.
Yep.
Oh, I'm going to hire that person over those other people because they're more qualified to grow in the direction we want to grow.
Yeah. But I like the way you put it, and it kind of brings up a thing. Um, do the research. Like, don't just apply for the job. What are they using? What tech stack are they using? Where are they going? What problem do like you're going to be part of this company doing this thing? What problem is it solving? What's the market size of that problem? Right?
Right.
So if I go to Microsoft and work on AI, that's pretty much the premier place to do AI work, right? So
Right.
then I'm in the catbird seat. I can go to probably any of the FANG companies at that point, right? And so I think I'm getting myself in trouble. As engineers, we romanticize the code a lot,
Hmm.
right? I'm a great engineer. We romanticize our impact, but at the end of the day, no one pays us to code. They pay us to provide solutions to problems. The code is a byproduct of solving that problem. And if you can understand that, you can really cut your competition off at the knees. Like that's what was always very helpful for me. Is it wasn't what I knew, it was what I could explain.
Well, that's actually a great way to explain how to pass interviews. Is
Yeah,
it's not about what you can actually memorize, it's about what you can actually explain.
yeah,
And I think that is critical. Another thing that I want to talk about was as you find, let's say you find that job, and just don't blindly apply to all these different jobs.
yeah,
Learn about the company, right? Like you were
yeah.
saying, but also look who's the job poster.
Exactly. Look who's the poster, like the person responsible for that role, and look who you're connected to that person,
And
so
then
that
reach
you
out to that person
absolutely,
directly. And I think
absolutely.
that gets you through so many. Oh, oh man, switch here. It's
And we're
just
back.
it's just a bad tech night here. It's probably because it's about to snow here. Um,
Yeah.
but reach out to that person directly, and I think that is
You
critical.
can cut your competition in half, right?
Mhm.
If somebody walks your resume over, you might not get to the circle, the green, but you're getting closer and closer.
Right.
So Yeah, and a lot of times it's the most effective way to find to get a role.
No, it was you had mentioned this too. We opened a role. I forgot what the role was, but our we have an internal recruiter that does all of the screening, and he posted that job, and we had 700 applicants within 24 hours.
Yeah,
It's
and
like,
you made a really good point. And
insane.
I want to. I don't. Yeah, there's no way for the couple of HR people that companies have to process the level of interest in roles right now. But let's go into the dark side. We got about 15 minutes left. Let's go into the dark side.
Okay.
There's a lot of uh-oh. The internet's like, no, 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 no.
Wait,
um, there's a lot of fake
this
roles
is
out
going to be
there.
the
There's a
most
lot
watched
of
section right here. I can see.
exactly right here. There's a lot of foolishness going on. There's a lot of companies posting jobs just to see what type of response they get. Right now, if a year ago, year and a half ago, companies are still begging for your attention. Like, please look at my opportunity. Look at my opportunity. Things have really shifted in the other direction, and they know that, and they are being terrible about it. Right? They're just being divas about it. They're like, oh, I want you to go through 5 rounds of interviews, 6 rounds of interviews, and a panel, and I want you to carry this egg on your head and jump up and down on one leg. It's terrible, right? Like you hear and see these stories about people applying to 6 rounds, going through 6 rounds of interviews, and not even getting a response,
Yep.
getting an automated rejection. I will burn down that building. I will show. Like, I,
Yeah,
I
it's
think
insane.
I guess we got to be careful in the world of United Healthcare, but I do think that public shaming of recruiters who don't provide feedback is appropriate.
Well, and I also think what there's a lot of uh jobs that are posted and it says stealth startup, and they're like, "Oh, we're operating in a super secret because we don't want anyone to steal our ideas."
No, they
Um,
just crap. They just
no,
scam. So many
they're
scammers.
scamming you and they're building email lists so they can sell that email list to another recruiting organization.
But let's talk about this, right? Let's talk about just that for 1 second. One thing newbies need to understand is when recruiters reach out to you, especially third party recruiters, meaning that they don't have the job, they're trying to jockey their position and leverage you as a candidate into the role, right? When jobs come out, you have first party, like I work for this company and we are hiring. Then
Right.
you have like second and third party. We put it out into the network, and these recruiters are trying to find the best candidate, and they're trying to leverage many different things to get their candidate in front of the hiring manager. Understand how far away from the goal you are when you're talking to these recruiters, because some of the recruiters have no leverage. The first party recruiters probably have leverage. They can get you in front of the person. A lot of times, the reason why you don't hear back from them is because these people were hoping that they could get your resume if you were such a strong candidate that they will be able to, kind of catapult themselves to the in front of the hiring manager. But the problem is that used to work when hiring managers were more open and a little bit more desperate for employees. But now that there's so many, like they don't have time. They can't manage the inflow of candidates now. So just imagine your third party recruiter who's making you promises. Oh, you look great. You really do align with this role, right? And then
Right.
you never hear back from anybody. Is because he never had the authority or the leverage to get you in front of that person.
No, they don't even know what, like, they're going to the job boards just as we are.
Yep.
And the only reason they're reaching out to you is because there might be a potential that they can earn some money off of you.
They
And
recruiters are not your friends. This has never not been true.
no.
When I was in New York, I did a lot of contracting work. This is like 99, 2000. I was making so much money. They just throwing money at us. And I had a recruiter friend who would call me, who would take me out to lunch, ask me how my kids were doing, and I was still a little green. So I was so heartbroken when the 2007 market right bubble popped,
Yep.
and this guy would not take my calls.
Right.
This guy would call me, say how I'm doing, say how my family's doing, take me to lunch, and all of a sudden he wouldn't take my calls.
Yeah.
You have to learn. Recruiters get paid a lot of money. You are a resource. You are a resource for them to earn money. They do not care about you.
Yeah, I have. I will. There are very, very few exceptions to that rule, and I have two. Like
Yep.
I have this one guy in Atlanta who I have worked with in technically three different states now. he
Hmm.
he was in Seattle, and then I moved to Atlanta, and then he moved to Atlanta and found me a job while I was in Atlanta, and then he worked with me to find me a job in New York. He's amazing, and I
Hmm.
still keep in touch with him. And then the other is this guy I work with here in New York, and
Yeah.
he like he's like, I don't have anything. I'm not. I know you're not
Yeah.
looking.
I'm not gonna waste your time. Yeah.
Do you want to grab lunch anyway? And I was like, sure. And we'll literally grab lunch. And he's like, this is fun.
I think relationship building is important, especially in this job market. But just be careful. You know, a lot of these recruiters are just transactional. I mean, a lot of the
Absolutely.
jobs are transactional.
Yeah.
Maybe that's another time. We'll come back to that another time.
Don't. Yeah, and don't apply to a stealth startup. If they're so worried about competition taking over, then as soon as one of the FANG companies finds out that that's a brilliant idea, they will take over and beat them.
Yeah.
They won't
Well,
acquire them. They will just straight up beat them. Just to let you know.
yeah. No, I see. I see what you mean. I think some of these. So I recently had this challenge personally. A startup posted a role, and I saw it because they were connected to a client, and I reached out, and it was. You have to understand what a startup working for a startup means. One, depending on the situation, you may not be paid. It might be an equity play. It might be many different things. I don't personally. What I said to myself is I don't think startups should be able to post jobs that do not pay on job boards. I think there should be a board for startups where, hey, all we have is equity. We're not funded yet. Um, there's nothing wrong with that. Like many
Yeah.
people want to work for startups, but don't in this job market, don't mix those roles with roles that have like we people looking to feed their family, and you're
Yep.
like just mucking up the work. I spoke to this I tried to speak to them, and then when I noticed, there's like, yeah, we don't have any money. We're just working for equity, and I'm like, why are you posting jobs? Didn't you pay for that? Like, I mean, yes, post the roles that you need hiring for, and do all of that, but don't mix that with people who need a job, a paying gig.
So I wonder, are there job boards that are equity only?
I think there has to be. I would think that they would have to be.
Yeah, that would be interesting because if
Yeah,
that doesn't exist, there's your next startup idea.
there you go. There you go.
Build a job board, and if you're posting here and you're paying somebody, then we don't want you. Which sounds
Yeah,
crazy, but that's
yeah, yeah. No, definitely. I mean, I think that as as a CTO for a funded startup, there is a kind of an attraction to working for startups, like, and that kind of fits
they're
my
fun.
personality.
Yeah,
Yeah, but people are worried about losing their homes and trying to get jobs and really struggling. I've many people who I love and respect are struggling right now. They should you like if you're posting something a job on LinkedIn, it should be for pay. Granted, internships and apprenticeships, I mean, even those pay
they should
by and
pay.
large.
I am
Yeah,
a
yeah.
big like I don't like internships where people are working for experience. No,
Hmm.
they're doing something that you need. You should pay them.
So this is interesting. We have a difference of opinion. I think that there is a place for working for experience that doesn't include pay, and I don't want to be a hypocrite. Like at App Hero, we couldn't pay anybody, and so we I took a lot of my former students and they got experience and they all got jobs. Like I think the real crutch of the thing is I see people try to do this all the time, but they don't have the ability or the time or the skill set to train those those interns to really make an impact. Every single one of the students that worked for me ended up getting jobs, and some of them are working, earning more than I'm earning right now. Like some of them are still doing well. You
Right.
know, it's one of my most proudest things about what I get to do is that I, you know, and to be fair, if if I hadn't if they hadn't taken the job, they wouldn't have got the experience. Like a lot of boot campers are like they struggle to get their first gig. You know,
Hmm.
no one wants to be the first, right? No one wants to be the first to invest in you until they see some another name on the resume. Yeah, you know, I would love, you know, love to pay everybody, you know, what the market says, but if you can't come in and contribute what you said, you know, add value to the bottom line, that's a tough sell. Another thing that you said, I mean, you said that, but there's also another side of this. Technically, interns should not be working on mission critical things.
That's fair.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, that's the rule, right? That's the law. You know, most people don't pay attention to it, but that's the rule, right?
you're right. I would
Like
not
if
want an
you,
intern building an ICU respirator, right?
yeah, I think I like that because that feels like, hey, that doesn't make sense. But let's talk about sales loft, right? Like, you know, I don't know if you know the story, but sales loft, one of the biggest tools that they have, or the thing that made them really big, was originally created by an intern.
Wow. Yeah.
And yeah, like it's kind of like a law, right? Law. They like, you know, this like he came for a summer. There was a small problem connected to a product, and it became a product.
I mean, there are some interns that I worked with at Microsoft that ended up like doing amazingly well and building some crazy useful tools. But
Hmm.
at Microsoft, all those interns were paid. Some of them were paid and housed and flown, and I was like, man,
When I worked for
I want to
Microsoft,
be an intern.
listen, when I was in Seattle working for Microsoft, they were paid well, they were housed, they were treated well, they were fed well, and not everyone, but a lot of them graduated to roles. I have to say what I thought working for Microsoft would be like, and what I observed, how intently Microsoft worked with these students, and how like it was so many things. I can go on for a bit about this, but my time at Microsoft really opened my eyes to how far Microsoft is willing to go to get, you know, to get interns and to grow them into employees and treat them fairly. And you know, I really that really meant a lot. Like it really taught me a lot, and it really made me respect Microsoft.
Yeah, they. I mean, I know for a fact they treated their interns amazingly well. Sometimes better than some
Mhm.
of their contractors. Uh, just saying.
Yeah,
That
no.
that class action lawsuit was a real thing back in, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
early 2000. Um, cool. Yeah, I think we covered. Wow, it's already almost 10 o'clock. Can you
Yeah,
believe time flies? Um,
that's right.
yeah, I don't. I think that's enough for tonight. Anything else you want to chat about? Other than
No, I think
it is 2024, and I know that this is going to be the last one until next year.
yeah. No, listen, this has been great. I mean, 20 like I want to kick 2024 in the ass on the way out the door because like Jesus Christ.
It's a
I
bad
hope
year.
2020 yeah, I hope 2025 comes in and doesn't break anything. Like please come in, sit down and shut up. Don't
Yep.
touch anything, don't break anything.
Just just go this way. Just slowly steady
Yeah,
up. That's all I want.
exactly right.
Yeah, I think
Yep.
2025 is going to be great. I'm excited. I think the AI thing is actually trending in the right way now, and people are like, oh, we should probably actually use it as a tool rather than
Hmm.
dedicate our lives to this one new shiny thing. And I
Yep.
think there's gonna be a tipping point for all of that, and I know that's gonna be another conversation. But reach out to your networks. I'm telling you right now, find the
Yep.
job
Definitely.
posters and find that first job, and like reach out to us. Like we know a lot of people too, and we will do what we can to say, hey, here's a place that you might want to look. Here's another area that might be helpful. Because we're all about helping people like move forward, right? I've had people help me, and that pay it forward thing really means a lot to I think both of us. So there you go.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. All right,
Cool.
guys.
So I am gonna do the little thank you thing and everything else, but thanks everybody, and we will see you in 2025. Have a good night.
See you in 2025.